Want to buy some secret stuff? Want to engage in a transaction with some other consenting adult that you don't want the government to know about? That is easier now, thanks to Freedom 2.0, which brought us something called Bitcoins. It's an online currency, one not controlled by any government or any single company even. Instead, it's run by many individuals who formed a computer network that keeps track of Bitcoin prices and how many coins you have. And it's almost completely anonymous. Now, why is that good, you might say? People will use it to buy illegal guns and drugs, and they do, actually, already. But Catherine Mangu-Ward of Reason Magazine says, on balance, that's a good thing. A good thing? Why?
So the first thing you have to keep in mind is that Bitcoins are no more kind of suspicious or anonymous than cash. Already people use cash all the time to buy illegal, illicit stuff they don't want their wife to know about. There's a lot of room for transactions that we might not want a permanent record of. Right now, that's cash. But now we have Bitcoins, which are digital.
If we have cash, who needs digital cash?
Well, I'm sure that you know, and certainly I have stopped going to stores almost completely. I buy everything online. And for some people, everything includes drugs or guns or whatever it is they want, and they'd like to be able to buy that online anonymously. And
originally, PayPal was supposed to do this.
This was the dream of PayPal, that it would be sort of a currency outside of governments. The weak point of PayPal is that there was a central place that could be shut down. You could go to the PayPal servers and say, we're going to clamp down on this. Bitcoin is different. It's stored on lots of different computers. It's a diffuse peer-to-peer technology. So there's no one place you can go and say, now the government knows what you're doing with Bitcoins, whereas you could with PayPal. And when it came to terrorism, money laundering, drugs, it turned out to be easy to shut that down.
But not Bitcoin, which makes it sound like it'll make it easier for terrorists.
You know, that is a possible very small side effect, but I think the much more important factor here is that what Bitcoin can do in theory is protect people from their own governments. Right now, the Federal Reserve can make money less valuable, the money that you have, that you earned, just by devaluing the currency. In theory, what Bitcoin does is take that power away from the governments and give it to individuals. You can put your money wherever you want.
That technically is illegal, too, because you're not allowed to have, for stupid reasons, alternative currencies in America. It seems like a basic part of freedom, and Bitcoin allows that. But here's the part that creeps people out. There's this Silk Road website where people spend their Bitcoins, and they sell all kinds of nasty stuff. Heroin, cocaine.
So Silk Road is just like any other online retailer. They have user reviews, so you can know who's ripping you off with bad weed and who's selling you good weed. The fact is that anything that kind of normalizes even black markets, I think, is ultimately a force for good. It means that people don't get dangerous products as often. They don't get ripped off. There is still a vulnerability, which is that if you buy a bunch of weed, they got to send it somewhere, right? It has to go to your house.
You have to have an address.
Right. But the fact is that most of the transactions that are happening on Silk Road have incredibly high user ratings. People like this. They want it. They want to buy these things. And just because they don't want a paper trail, or a digital paper trail in this case, it isn't a sign they're doing something wrong. There's lots of reasons to want privacy.
And Silk Road was named after the Silk Route that we used to trade silk from China. The West gave them wine, olive oil, and gold, got silk back.
And the original Silk Road was an incredible force for progress. This was the first, or one of the very early instances of globalization. Spices that were impossible to get in Europe made their way back from Asia, and other things went the other direction. It's a powerful force for improving the welfare of people. And the idea that this Silk Road is somehow bad just because it's anonymous, I think is misguided.
It lets people evade taxes.
Well, I guess my response would be amen to that.
But we need taxes to pay for what government should do.
Sure. Ultimately, the responsibility to pay for taxes resides with the individual. We don't blame the retailer if you don't pay your taxes. We don't blame your employer if you choose not to pay your income taxes. It's an individual moral case. Whether or not there's this online site that facilitates purchases without taxes, it's not their fault.
And Bitcoins are used not just to buy drugs. People use them to buy porn. They don't want someone to have they don't want someone to see the paper trail. Online gambling, which is stupidly illegal. And even for transactions that aren't illegal now, but might sometime be in the future, like buying a gun.
Sure. And I mean, I think it's really reasonable for lots of kinds of purchases, which are now totally legal. You might not want to leave a record of that. Guns are a great example. You know, later on, somebody might go and look at sales records and follow up on those and come take your gun away.
Now, my senator, Charles Schumer, who is, I think, against everything that's good, is trying to ban Bitcoins. How frustrated he is. He can't stop this new currency.
It's unbelievable. And it's all hidden because they don't use dollars. They use this surrogate currency.
He also wants to ban guns, caffeine sprays, high-frequency trading, and they can't ban it, though, because they can't get their hands on it, really.
Sites that allow you to do these kinds of transactions anonymously, they increase the power of the individual. They decrease the power of governments. They take some of the control away from people like Chuck Schumer and give it to you and me. Of course, Chuck Schumer hates that.
And, of course, that's a good thing. Thank you, Catherine Mangu Ward of Reason Magazine.